My name is Melissa Hall, and I am a child of God. 21 years ago, I got out of prison for dealing drugs, methamphetamine. I was living at my mom's. I was at a bar, and I met this gentleman, and he was absolutely gorgeous. My knight, I thought, in shining armor. He became very possessive. He had trust issues, and I got pregnant by him. And I didn't have my own place to live. I didn't have a job, no car, and I was, as I said, living at my mother's. So I was defeated out the gate, and my best friend practiced witchcraft, and I didn't believe it. I just thought she was a dark person, even though there were books laying around her apartment, and there was lots of signs. She had baby dolls with fangs and blood, and I just thought she did this for attention. Her kitchen table and chairs was on the ceiling, and I really thought she did this for show, and she was a real practicing witch, and she was my best friend, and I didn't even know it. Well, she hated my boyfriend I started dating, and she absolutely hated the fact that I was pregnant by him. And I don't know if she was jealous of me, because I feel like that's part of it. But I also know that Satan was working through her. She was my best friend. And so she said, "You can't have this baby." And I was like, she talked me right into it. And, you know, he was very possessive, and he showed signs of control freak and, you know, all these things. And she just talked it up and exaggerated it. And so I followed what she was saying. I wasn't in a good place with God, and I've known him all my life. But I was so broken already, and I didn't have the means to take care of a child. And it was about me, not about the baby. And I regret it every day. So, of course, she took me to the place. It was downtown Fort Wayne, and we left and came back, and it was over in, the ride and everything, it was done in 2 hours' time. I was back home, and I just remember the place being really dark and like in a basement of some old building in Fort Wayne. And I was afraid that the guy wasn't even a real doctor, but he had the coat, and they had the, you know what I mean? I don't know. I was so confused. There was so much confusion going on, and I wasn't following the Lord. I was strayed, and I just wanted it to be over, and it went home. And they were very matter of fact and in and out. And they weren't affectionate at all, but they said if there are any complications, to go to the hospital and get a D&C. They did tell me that. I don't know. This was so long ago, and I just wanted to forget it. So I went straight back to numbing the only and best way I knew how, and that was drugs. And I've been a meth addict for 37 years of my life, and I'm 50, almost 2. And praise God, I've been clean 809 days today. how I knew that this was my time to heal from this whole thing is because I've pushed it out of the way and back and deep down for so many years. It's a beautiful thing. When I was explaining to my friend Laura, because she was telling me of a loss that she had had, and that before that she said, we were talking about my kids, and she said, well, I wouldn't know. I love your kids, but I wouldn't know the love of a child because I never had a child. And I said, well, I thought you said you lost a child. And I said, she goes, I did. And I said, then you were a mother, and you had agreed that. And I said, you're a mommy. You know, whether you got to hold that baby or whatever, you were still a mother. As a miscarriage, you're still a mommy. And I said, you're welcome to my kids anytime, because God graced me with 3 beautiful, healthy children after my abortion. And so in that conversation with Laura, I said, you know, I still haven't grieved the child that I aborted. And she goes, you never told me about it. And we're new friends. And I said, I didn't tell anybody about it. You know, very few people know it. Like my best friend that Satan used to get me to have it. I said, I shared with her that I aborted a child, and she said, it's going to be okay. And I went outside because it was overwhelming, the conversation. And so I go outside and I'm talking to God, and he says, just look up. And I looked up and I saw a little boy with an angel playing in the clouds. And he said, that's your baby boy, and he's waiting for you. And when I was a little girl and we played house, I always said my favorite name was Seth. And that's what I would name my son if I ever had a son. As a little girl playing Barbies and stuff. And when she said that, Krista said that upstairs, I was just like, oh my gosh, God's gonna give me a Seth. And that was my Seth. And so I believe that for the time I have here on earth still, God gave me my grandson as my little Seth, because when I didn't get to raise any of my children from baby. My daughter was 2 when she was taken away from me, and I went to prison. And my sons, which I had 6 years later, I was still in my addiction. And my son tested positive at the hospital for meth. And so 2 weeks after I took him home, they came and got my 6-month-old and my newborn. So I didn't get to raise any babies as babies. And I know that's why God gave us my grandson. I know it is, because it gave me that feeling of being a mommy to a baby. And I was there, I cut the cord when he was born, and we lived together ever since. And he's still in my home, and it's a beautiful thing. And I just praise God for that. And that's part of my healing too. But when she talked about Seth, God's given us a Seth, I knew this was my time. And I'm so grateful. I just praise God for it. When I was, I don't even know how old I was molested by my mother's sister's husband. I call him the monster. I still have blocked out so well what age I was, but I remember having footy pajamas on and the snaps on the back so you can unsnap and go potty. So I was that age, whatever age that might be. I was molested by this monster, and I carried that around until I was 30 and got clean the first time I got clean off drugs. and which was in prison. It was a force to clean, so it didn't last. But when it surfaced, while I was in prison, I called my parents, and I was very hurt that I came from a Christian home. How did I get molested? Just a quick backstory. This man went to prison for 2 years for gang raping a 15-year-old girl with his two best friends. How on earth, as a Christian parents, did you let me be around that man by myself? You know, that was super hard for me. And I blamed them, and I hated my parents, even though I loved them. I said, you should have just set me in front of a semi and let them take me out. To have to live with that sick feeling and never clean, and you scrub it as much as you can scrub it till you're red on your skin, and it burns, and you can't get the dirt off. That's how dirty you feel. But I have a God that has healed me from that now. I never went to the guy's funeral, but I went and I spat on his grave after I seen the last car pull away from the gravesite. And then I said, 2 years ago, when I attempted suicide, I volunteered to go to a psych ward and get it figured out and get, meds or whatever I needed because I didn't want to live anymore. I finally forgave him in that place. And it was a little girl that I was neighbors with at this facility. And we were in a meeting one night, and she said, I was explaining the story about my molestation and how I blamed my parents, and why can't my mom just talk to me? My dad has totally repented of his part in it and said how sorry, he was, and he didn't know, and he wept on the floor, and I believe him. But my mom, she wasn't so forgiving. She called me a liar, and I get it now. She doesn't want to own it. What mother in their right mind would want to own that, giving that pain to their own child? I get it now. I've forgiven all of them involved. Even my aunt that knew what was going on, I've forgiven them all. And I have healed so good from that. God has it's amazing. I'm so excited for the direction that I'm going and for the ministry God's given me. I would tell somebody that was confused and had nothing to raise a child, just lean into Jesus, because he is the way to truth and life. And it's there. And he'll make a way if you would just trust him. Just lean into him and give him your whole heart. And he'll make a way where there seems to be no way. And I wish that I would have had somebody give me that direction. I wish that more people would be doing what Chris is doing, because, geez, I want to be a part of that, of her tribe, to help girls troubled like I was troubled. And I wasn't even a girl. I was a 31-year-old woman. My parents divorced when I was 12. My mom got a job at this electric company, and all these young chicks she worked around, and mind you, she was like almost 40 then, and we lived a very religious lifestyle. Like, we didn't cut our hair, we didn't wear makeup, yada yada, and it was very it was horrible, legalistic religion that we lived in. And so my mom didn't get out much. She was very sheltered, and we didn't cut her hair. I think I said that. It was horrible. And so anyway, she was around these women that were having fun on the weekends and going out and doing all this stuff. And my mom, Satan got a hold of her and tempted her. And my mom decided, instead of staying as a family, that she wanted to be free and sow her oats that she never got to sow, because she'd been with my daddy since high school. And so she soon found out the grass wasn't greener on the other side. But because of the divorce, I was home at age 12, raising my little brother. He was 6. She worked 3 jobs. And so she was never home. And that's when the partying started. Got with the wrong group, started partying, and which was amazing because it hid the molestation. It masked it, clouded it, kept it pushed down. But then when I would stop partying or stop drinking or stop smoking weed, here it come back. So then I learned how to fix that. And it was absolutely stay drunk and high all the time. So absolutely, the molestation led me into using and addiction early. I was 12. And so for 37 years, I had periods of times that I was clean, but it didn't last because I was doing it wrong. But I was so broken. And I would tell them, look to Jesus, because it's not talked about. Nobody wants to talk about abortion. Nobody wants to admit to it. Nobody wants to go through the shame of asking for help, but there's help there, and it's Jesus. That is your help. And he will direct your path. He will take you wherever you need to go to get the help. He'll make sure that you do it, that he does it for you. I would like to say thank you to my friend Angie, real quick, and I know this is way off topic, but she bought me this phone cover. And it means so much to me. It says, "The devil whispered in my ear, you're not strong enough to withstand the storm." Today I whispered back in the devil's ear, I have on the full armor of God, and I am the storm. And I just praise God for the friends that he's brought into my life, and Krista and you guys